Did you know that the average woman who dyes her hair will spend nearly $50,000 and sit in a salon chair for the equivalent of 2 full months of her life over the course of her retirement years? That is a staggering amount of time and money spent fighting a battle that biology guarantees you will lose. But what if I told you that the rules keeping you tethered to that appointment book are actually lies? What if the dye bottle isn't making you look younger, but is actually the very thing aging you the most? It feels less like a beauty routine and more like a sentence, doesn't it? We often joke about being slaves to the bottle, but for so many of us, the laughter is covering up a genuine fear. We are terrified that if we stop covering the gray, we become invisible. We worry that we are giving up, letting ourselves go, or signing a contract that says our vibrant, relevant years are behind us. But I want to ask you a question, and I want you to be really honest with yourself. Is it the gray hair that makes you feel old, or is it the exhaustion of fighting a battle you can never truly win? What if I told you that the very thing you are running from, that silver, white, or pewter hair, is actually the key to a level of radiance and freedom you haven't felt in decades? What if the rules of aging that keep you tethered to that appointment book were actually completely backward, scientifically speaking? I am here today to talk to you not just as a friend, but as a mentor who looks at the biology and the psychology behind why we do what we do. We are going to dismantle the 5 biggest myths about going gray. These are lies that have been sold to women for generations. And we aren't just going to use opinions. We are going to look at the hard evidence, the dermatology, and the optical science that proves why ditching the dye might just be the best anti-aging move you can make. Before we dive into the truth that will set your hair free, consider clicking that subscribe button. We are building a community here that prioritizes senior health, vitality, and the kind of wellness tips that doctors often overlook in standard checkups. And I would love to know who I am chatting with today. Where in the world are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. It is always amazing to see how far this family reaches. Now, let's take a deep breath, put down the root touch-up spray, and look at the first and perhaps the most pervasive myth that keeps us trapped. It is the belief that going gray will make me look old. This is the big one. It is the monster under the bed. The assumption is that dark, saturated hair equals youth and light, silver hair equals elderly. But when we actually look at the science of visual perception, the opposite is often true for women over 50. The problem is not the gray hair. The problem is the contrast. As we age, our skin tone changes, we lose microcirculation, our complexion softens, and often becomes more translucent or pale. When you frame a softening face with a harsh, saturated block of dark artificial color, you are creating a high contrast line that actually emphasizes every imperfection. It acts like a black picture frame around a delicate watercolor painting. It draws the eye to the lines, the shadows, and the texture of the skin. There was a fascinating study published in the journal Psychology and Aging, specifically led by researcher Richard Russell, which examined facial contrast and the perception of age. The study found that while facial contrast is a sign of youth, artificial contrast that doesn't harmonize with the skin tone creates a dissonance that the human eye interprets as harshness rather than youth. The study indicated that maintaining a harmonious luminance between the skin and hair is actually more critical for attractiveness than simply having dark hair. When you dye your hair a flat, dark brown to cover the gray, you are often fighting against your skin's natural evolution. The sharp dye line casts shadows on the face, deepening the appearance of nasolabial folds and under eye circles. Imagine your face as a room lit by a soft lamp. Dark dyed hair is like painting the walls black. It absorbs the light and makes the room feel smaller and dimmer. Silver hair, however, acts like a reflector, bouncing light back onto your skin, softening those lines, and giving you what photographers call a fill light. So the first step is to stop seeing gray as old and start seeing it as your natural illuminator. If you feel like your face looks drawn, the solution isn't darker hair. It is likely that you need the softness that your natural silver provides. But perhaps you are sitting there thinking, okay, I can handle the color, but I cannot handle the texture. Gray hair is like wire. This brings us to the second myth that keeps women in the salon chair. The texture will be unmanageable. We have this idea that gray hair is inherently coarse, frizzy, and wiry, and that the dye is the only thing taming it. Let's get into the trichology, the science of hair and scalp, because this is where the industry really hoodwinks us. It is true that gray hair can feel different. This is because the hair follicles produce less oil or sebum as we age, and the shape of the hair shaft can sometimes become more irregular. However, the unmanageable texture you are fighting is often not caused by the gray itself, but by the damage you are inflicting on it to cover it up. Think about what happens during a permanent coloring process. To get color into the hair shaft, you have to force open the cuticle, the protective outer layer of the hair that looks like shingles on a roof. You use ammonia or similar alkaline agents to blast those shingles open, and then peroxide to strip out the natural melanin and oxidize the new color molecules. A pivotal study published in the Journal of Cosmetic Science analyzed the degradation of hair lipids during permanent coloring. The research revealed that chemical coloring strips away the F layer, specifically a lipid called 18-methyl eicosanoic acid, or 18-MEA. This layer is responsible for the hair's hydrophobicity, its ability to repel water and stay smooth. The study showed that a single permanent color treatment can remove significant portions of this protective lipid layer, increasing friction and making the hair porous. When your hair is porous, it sucks up humidity from the air like a sponge, which causes the shaft to swell and, you guessed it, frizz. So that wiry texture you hate, a huge part of that is actually chemical exhaustion. You are blaming the gray for the crimes of the dye. Imagine trying to smooth out a silk sheet that you have repeatedly washed in bleach and sandpaper. That is what you are doing to your hair. Once you stop the chemical assault, the new silver growth, while perhaps slightly coarser than your hair at 20, still has its cuticle intact. It has its F layer. It is hydrophobic and smooth. The actionable takeaway here is a shift in mindset and product. You do not need harsh chemicals to tame your hair. You need moisture. Swap the dye for high quality, lipid replenishing deep conditioners. When you stop frying the cuticle, you will be shocked at how soft and manageable that wiry gray actually becomes. Now that we have tackled the color and the texture, we have to address the style. This is a myth that is deeply ingrained in our culture, a sort of unspoken rule that women seem to inherit the moment they turn 50. Myth number 3 is, if I go gray, I need to cut it short. We have all seen it. The grandma cut, the tight permed bubble, or the super short pixie that seems to be the uniform of older women. We tell ourselves we cut it because it is easier or because long hair drags the face down. But often we cut it because we are trying to control the gray to minimize its surface area, or because society tells us that long hair is reserved for the fertile and the young. This is a psychological barrier, not a physical one. Let's look at this through the lens of evolutionary psychology. Hair is historically a signal of health and vitality. A study published in the journal Human Nature, which examined the signaling value of hair, found that hair quality and volume are significant markers of biological health, regardless of age. The study suggests that hair length and quality serve as a cue to others about an individual's phenotypic quality, essentially their health status. When you chop off healthy silver hair simply because of a societal rule, you are removing a powerful signal of your own vitality. There is nothing inherently aging about long hair. In fact, a short, sensible cut can sometimes age you more by exposing the neck and jawline, which are areas where gravity takes its toll. Long flowing silver hair can act as a soft frame, blurring the edges and adding a sense of movement and energy that a static shortcut lacks. Think of the silver foxes you admire, women who look regal and queenly. Often they have a bob, a lob, or even hair down to their shoulders. They haven't resigned themselves to the invisible uniform. They have embraced their hair as a crown. The takeaway here is simple but rebellious. Do not cut your hair just because you stop dyeing it. If you love short hair, fantastic. But if you are cutting it to hide, stop. Trim the ends to keep it healthy, but keep the length if it makes you feel like you. Elegance does not have an expiration date, and neither does long hair. Moving on, we hit a myth that plays on our vanity and our fear of disappearing. Myth number four, it washes me out. You have probably heard this from well meaning friends or even hairstylists. They say, "Oh, honey, you need some warmth around your face, or you will look like a ghost." The fear is that without the golden or reddish tones of the dye, your skin will look flat and sickly. This misconception comes from a misunderstanding of how light interacts with surface color versus texture. Pigmented hair, like brown, red, or blonde, creates color through the absorption and reflection of specific wavelengths of light. White or silver hair, however, is practically devoid of melanin. This means it doesn't just reflect a specific color, it reflects all light. In the world of optics and color theory, white is the most reflective surface. A study in color research and application discussed the optical properties of hair and noted that unpigmented fibers have a significantly higher specular reflection, that is, the mirror like shine, compared to pigmented fibers. This means your silver hair is essentially a halo of light. When you have a natural reflector framing your face, it can actually minimize the appearance of uneven skin tone and pigmentation issues like age spots by diffusing the light that hits your face. It is the same principle as using a brightening concealer under your eyes. Dark hair creates shadows, silver hair creates radiance. However, there is a grain of truth here that we need to address with a strategy. While the hair doesn't wash you out, your old wardrobe might, the colors you wore when you were a warm brunette might not sing the same way when you are cool silver. You might find that beige, mustard, or olive green colors that used to look great now feel a bit muddy. But this isn't a loss. It is an opportunity for a makeover. Silver hair creates a stunning, high contrast canvas for colors that you might have been too afraid to wear before. Jewel tones like royal blue, emerald green, deep purple, and charcoal look absolutely striking against silver hair. The silver acts as a neutralizer that allows these bold colors to pop without clashing. So the action step here is to realize that your hair isn't washing you out. It is inviting you to level up your palette. You aren't fading away. You are becoming a higher contrast, more striking version of yourself. Finally, we arrive at the hurdle that stops most women before they even start. You know, the truth about the light, the texture, and the style, but you are paralyzed by the logistics. Myth number five is the transition takes forever and I will look terrible. This is the skunk stripe fear magnified. We imagine that the only way to go gray is to endure 2 years of having 2 inches of white roots and 10 inches of dark brassy ends, looking like we just stopped caring. We think it is a all or nothing game. Either I diet or I suffer through the ugly growing out phase. But the salon industry has undergone a massive revolution in the last 5 years, specifically driven by the demand for gray blending. We are no longer in the era where you have to go cold turkey. There is a psychological concept called response effort. If a task feels too hard or takes too long, like growing out hair for 2 years with a bad dye line, we are unlikely to attempt it. But if we can reduce the effort or the pain of the transition, the success rate skyrockets. This is where modern technique comes in. You need to know about gray blending, or techniques often referred to as herringbone highlights. Instead of covering the gray, a skilled colorist uses foils to paint the dye out of your hair, matching the ends to your natural root pattern. They weave in silver and ash blonde lowlights to break up the line of demarcation. According to industry market analysis, specifically reports from platforms like Klein and Company on salon hair color trends, there has been a significant uptick in demi-permanent and glossing services compared to permanent root coverage. This shift indicates that women are opting for services that blend rather than mask. You can literally walk into a salon with dark brown dyed hair and walk out 6 hours later with a stunning multi-dimensional silver ash blend that looks intentional, chic, and completely bypasses the skunk phase. It is not cheap, and it takes a skilled stylist, but it turns a 2 year sentence into a 1 day transformation. Or if you prefer a slower route, you can switch to semi-permanent dyes that fade gradually so you never get a harsh line. The takeaway is you do not have to endure a bad hair year. You just need a different strategy in the chair. Ask your stylist for blending, not coverage. If they say it can't be done, find a stylist who specializes in silver transitions. They are out there and they are wizards. Now, I want to take a pause here. We have covered a lot of ground, from the physics of light reflection to the biology of hair lipids. But I know that for many of you, the hesitation isn't just about the hair, it is about what the hair represents. When we look in the mirror and see gray, we are confronted with our own mortality. We live in a society that screams at women to fight aging as if it were a disease. We are told that our value is linked to our fertility and our youth. So when we pick up that dye bottle, we are often trying to prove that we are still relevant, still in the game, still worth looking at. But I want you to consider a different perspective. What if your relevance isn't defined by how well you can camouflage yourself as a 30-year-old? What if your power comes from the authenticity of owning who you are right now? There is a tremendous amount of stress on the body and the mind when we live in a state of dissonance. When the person we present to the world doesn't match the person we are inside, that anxiety of will they see my roots is a low level hum of stress that you carry with you every single day. Imagine turning that volume down to zero. Imagine walking into a room head high with a mane of silver that says, I have earned my years. I am confident in my skin. I have nothing to hide. The women I speak to who have made this transition often tell me the same thing. They say, I thought I was just changing my hair color, but I ended up changing my life. They feel lighter, they feel more honest, and surprisingly, they often feel more visible, not less, because in a sea of dyed brown and blonde uniformity, a woman who rocks her natural silver with confidence is a unicorn. She stands out. She commands respect. So let's recap the battle plan. We are no longer slaves to the myths. We know that the harsh dye line makes us look older, not the gray. We know that the chemical processing is what ruins the texture, and moisture is the cure. We know that long silver hair is a symbol of vitality, not a breach of the grandma rules. We know that silver hair is a light reflector that can make our skin glow if we dress to match it. And we know that the transition can be seamless if we use modern blending techniques. This isn't just about hair. It is about health. It is about reducing your chemical load. It is about psychological freedom. It is about saving thousands of dollars and hundreds of hours that you can spend on things that actually bring you joy, like traveling, learning a new language, or just having coffee with a friend without worrying if your roots are showing. My challenge to you is this: take one small step. You don't have to shave your head today. Maybe just extend the time between your appointments by 1 week. Maybe buy a deep conditioner instead of a color protection shampoo. Maybe just start looking at photos of silver haired women and see the beauty in them so you can start seeing it in yourself. You have been the caretaker of everyone else for so long. You have managed the family, the career, the home. You have followed the rules. It is time to break this one. Your hair is the crown you never take off. Why should it be made of fake plastic when it could be made of silver and platinum? I want to hear from you in the comments. This is a safe space and your experience matters. Tell me, what is the one fear that has stopped you from embracing your natural hair up until now? Is it the workplace? Is it your partner? Is it just the woman in the mirror? Let's talk about it down below. And if you found this helpful, if you felt a little spark of courage listening to this, please give this video a thumbs up. It helps us get this message of pro-aging empowerment to more women who need to hear it. Don't forget to subscribe, because your health and your confidence is worth fighting for. Remember, you are not fading away. You are just revealing your true brilliance. Until next time, take care of yourself and let that silver shine.